Okay, you can finish the rest of the video by yourself. And now let's have a little bit more formal definition. So what is a syllable? A syllable is made up of a vowel with optional initial and final consonants. So what is important for syllable is to have a vowel. So we need to track vowels. Okay, and features of vowel are louder and produced with large amount of airstream. So in other words, if we find the louder sounds or a larger amount of airstream, then we can find vowels and then syllables. Okay, so in the video there are three ways of counting syllables. The first two ways, syllable clap and robot speak, use the loudness to find syllable. And the last method is to detect airstream, because when we try to produce a vowel, a lot of airstream will comes out from your mouth, and then you have to open your mouth, right? And so let's try together. How many syllables are there in Neil Armstrong? So I have to open my mouth 3 times for three syllables. Okay. So let's talk about the structure of syllable now. So peak is the vowel of the syllable, and then the peak with the following consonant. The consonants following the peak is called coda. Okay, coda, and then the consonants preceding the peak vowel is called onset. So within a syllable, we can have three different elements: onset, peak, and coda. Peak is a vowel, and onset is the preceding consonant, and coda is the following consonants. And peak and rhyme, peak and coda, these two things form another unit, another natural unit, which is called a rhyme. Okay, so a syllable is composed of two things, onset and rhyme is decomposed into two things, peak and coda. Okay, this structure is very important. So we can represent the structure in this tree notation, or we can use bracket notation. So we group these two guys together, peak and coda, and rhyme indicate the unit of this bracket, rhyme. Okay, and then onset is the same thing but just notational difference. Okay, and then so another example, if we have sprouts, owl is the peak, tz is coda, and spur is the onset, and peak and coda form rhyme. Okay, and then I'm going to motivate why there are such units called a rhyme. So let's think about this tree structure again. Actually, we have three elements, three kinds of elements. Okay, onset, peak, coda. Why do we want to group peak and coda together? Alternatively, we can group onset and peak together, right? Or just have a trinary tree structure. We have three branches. Everything is equal. Why do we want to group peak and coda together? There's a reason behind this. Okay, so in poetry and songs, treat peak and coda as a unit instead of onset and peak. So poetry and song are good evidence showing our intuition about the language. Okay, so we treat peak and coda as a single unit, and we do not see any poetry or any song which use onset and peak as a single unit. Okay, and there are some language games treat peak and coda as unique. For example, peak Latin. So peak Latin is that we remove the second part of the word, and we move it to the initial position of the word. Okay, so I'm using part as a very vague word, but here part turns out to be rhyme. Okay, pig would be ikpei. So sorry, you add a at the end of the word. So ik is moved to the initial position, and then we've got ikpei. And then we have trash, ashtray. So you see we move the whole coda to the initial position, ashtray. And then we have glove, love gay, glove. Sorry, I'm making this wrong. Off, awfully. I'm not so good at speaking Pig Latin, but if you can speak it, you can get the intuition. Actually, what we do is to move all the rhyme to the initial position. Okay,